everyone, and good morning. My name is Leanne, and I'm part of the Vancouver Startup Week team. I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge that we're grateful to be virtually gathered on Indigenous land, regardless of where you're joining us from. At my home here in Vancouver, I am grateful to be on the traditional, ancestral, and unceded territory of the Musqueam, Tsleil-Waututh, and Squamish peoples. I'm privileged to live, work, and play on these lands. I'd like to thank you for joining us for VSW 2021, and welcome to today's session, From Startups to Fortune 1000, Lessons as a Technical Leader, hosted by Grammarly. This session is part of the VSW Founder Track and is proudly supported by Sage Accounting. Sage knows you didn't start up your business to become an accountant. Sorry to any of the accountants on there. Sage Accounting keeps your business organized and running smoothly. Track your cash flow, send out invoices, and get paid quickly. Visit the Sage Accounting booth to access free guides and templates for starting your business finances the right way. Plus, get an exclusive VSW discount if you are ready to switch from Excel. I'd also like to take a moment to thank Grammarly for being one of our event partners and a sponsor. VSW could not happen without the continuous support from our community sponsors. With that, during today's session, just a reminder to post your questions for our speakers in the Q&A portion of the Whova platform. And you can also upvote your questions to make sure that we ask them first. Without further ado, I am going to pass the virtual microphone over to our speaker and over to you to begin.
Thank you, Leanne. Everyone hear me okay? Yeah.
We can.
Cool. All right. Hello, everyone. Good morning. Thank you again for joining me today. And today's talk is titled From Startups to Fortune 1000, Lessons as a Technical Leader. My name is Kiky Tangerine, and today I want to share with you some of the failures that I've made as an entrepreneur, the lessons that I've learned, and how I'm trying to apply them in my current endeavors. So a little bit of a background about myself. I am currently an engineering manager for the browser extensions team here in Grammarly in Vancouver. My team primarily focuses on the performance and ubiquity of Grammarly's browser extension that's being used by millions of people every day. When I started my career, I started as a software engineer at a local gaming company in Vancouver. Spent a couple of years there, and then I moved down to Redmond, Washington to join Microsoft as software engineering in test and software engineer in their business solutions division. I spent about 3 years in Microsoft in Redmond, and then I moved back to Vancouver to join the Microsoft's Office division and eventually became a tech lead in OneNote team for the education and the OneNote web client. During my Microsoft stint, I also spent a year as an engineering tech lead for MSN, which is Microsoft News, which was rebranded from the old MSN Microsoft Network. But in between my stint in Microsoft, I actually left the company and went to join a local early stage startup in Vancouver as a director of software engineering. Outside of my corporate career, I've always kind of been fascinated by the world of entrepreneurship, and I have tried various attempts to found my own company. And the latest one, which is still going right now, is a software consulting firm called Engineer Apart, working on contracts for small startups all the way to multi-billion-dollar companies like CA Technologies, who got acquired by Broadcom, I think, back in 2018. Outside of work, I am a proud father of 2 lovely kids. My older one, my son, there is Nathan, and he's 7. And my younger daughter, her name is Kira, she's 4. Aside from being busy with work and parenthood, I am also a fitness enthusiast. And as a matter of fact, I am a certified personal trainer, and I do own and operate my own fitness studio down in Richmond, BC, which just opened a couple of months ago. Before diving into my talk, I do want to give a little bit of introduction as well about Grammarly, talk a little bit more about Grammarly and what we do. Some of you might have heard about Grammarly. Some of you might have not. So what is Grammarly? Grammarly is an AI-powered writing assistant that will help you make your communications clear, effective wherever you type. Some stats for Grammarly: we have over 500 team members across our 4 sites in San Francisco, New York, Kyiv, and Vancouver. We serve over 30 million people daily using our products, and that includes 30,000 teams that is served by the Grammarly business product offerings, teams inside companies like Cisco, Accenture, Expedia, Zapier, etc. So when people heard about Grammarly for the first time, most people would think Grammarly is probably doing grammar and spelling and punctuation error corrections. While Grammarly goes beyond those, it is actually a comprehensive writing tool that can help you with the clarity of your writing, engaging with your audience, and also help delivering your text. And when we said available everywhere, we do mean available everywhere. Grammarly is available as a web app, as a browser extension on 4 major browsers. We also have desktop apps for both Windows and Mac OS, as well as mobile apps for phone and for tablet. So that's a little bit about Grammarly. Now let's get back to talking about my experience as technical founder and joining early stage startup. So spoiler alert, these experiences I'm about to share with you didn't make me a serial startup guru or a millionaire, but I did gain valuable lessons from them that I use every day in my career. For today's talk, I'll be focusing on 3 important lessons that I've learned from my failures and how they have been key in my professional development and career. So if there's anything you take home from this talk, I hope these lessons will be it. And I really love this quote from Zig Ziglar: "Each failure brings you one step closer to success." Being a glass half full person myself, looking at a failure, I see it as not as a wasted opportunity, but rather as a learning opportunity that you can take lessons out of and apply them in your future endeavors. That being said, let's go to the first lesson I want to dive into about team composition. And to give context for this lesson, we're going back to the year of 2014, talking about one of my first experience diving into entrepreneurship. So back then, along with 6 other friends, myself and my 6 friends, we set out to build an online booking platform for tours and excursions from scratch. Again, there were 7 of us, one acting as a CEO, one acting as a CFO, I acted as the CTO, and there were 4 other people working as developers. So 6 out of the 7 members there have tech background actually, and the other one has a background in accounting, who eventually acted as our CFO. For a lot of us in the team, this was our first foray into entrepreneurship. So we were very green, we were very new, a lack of experience. We started off by doing some market research and some competitor analysis about the space. And after figuring out the feature list that we think will be needed for the users, the space, we went ahead and started building. Fun fact, 2014 was also the year when Silicon Valley TV show premiered. And I feel like this picture captured the vibe and the challenges that we had back then as well. When we got together, when we started building, we really went ahead and built, we set out to build the best product that we could, engineering wise. So we really, we used latest and greatest technology. We started implementing payment processing integration with Stripe and with PayPal. We did proprietary scheduling system with booking slots and reminders. We added support for custom domain for the front site of our customer's customer. We built an admin view for our customers with a WYSIWYG editor so that they can customize the look and feel of their front site for their customers. And I could go on and on and on. There were a lot of features that we packed into this product. But long story short, we invested really heavily into the tech part of our product, and we're not able to sustain any customers and eventually ran out of runway. So what happened? What went wrong? First point here is there was nobody really to cover marketing, communications, business development, like sales and customer relations. We did not have anyone to cover these areas other than the tech. We focused too much on building the product and not marketing the product, not acquiring customers. We put a ton of hours, a ton of resources into the product, but not in the right proportions needed to grow the business. We looked at it as a product, as a project, not as a business. What was the lesson here? So team composition is really important. Again, we must be able to cover all aspects to successfully running a business, not just the tech or the product. Successful businesses need strategies to grow sales, to take care of customers, to have direct relationship with customers and figure out what they need, what problems we can help them solve. What's the second point of failure? Second point here is, again, we focus too much on building a comprehensive feature set rather than engaging with our customers early to figure out the critical pain points to solve. We had this build and they will come mentality, and market penetration was just an afterthought. The lesson here is to prioritize validating ideas early. Startups are typically resource constrained, so we really need to be mindful on what to spend the resources on. Rather build a feature that the customers really need, try to solve their pain points rather than building a feature that they don't really ask for. This lesson is actually also covered from the build, measure, and learn loop from the book Lead Startup by Eric Ries. I think some of you, maybe all of you might have heard of the book. Some of you might have read the book, but if you have not already, highly recommend it to read. This is a really good book to read for both aspiring and seasoned entrepreneurs alike. The second lesson I wanted to focus on is focus. For this lesson, going back to my experience back in 2017, joining a early stage local startup in Vancouver. I joined as a director of software engineer, and the company set out to build a project management software for mining and construction industry. The initial focus was to solve the pain points in mining construction and mine operations, especially focusing on solving the RFX process. RFX is a request for X, and X could be information, quotation, proposal, or any other formal document. It's a really rigid and formal workflow to request for these documents. So the team behind this company, we have industry experts, the CEO and other executives have hands-on experience in mining construction and also mine operations. We also had a team of accountant, developers, business analysts, and designer. So when we just started gathering our requirements and started building initially our MVP, we quickly branched off to also talking to commercial and residential construction companies before securing our first client. We also started having discussions with Department of National Defense to potentially run one of their projects. At the same time, the CEO tasked me to look into incorporating emerging tech into the product, using IoT, Internet of Things for digital twinning, AR, augmented reality for data enrichment, AI, artificial intelligence for automated on-site troubleshooting, and blockchain for distributed ledger. So you can hopefully see where this is going, or rather not going. So yeah, where did it fail? What was the start of the downfall? The first point of failure here, again, the scope of MVP got bigger and bigger as we talked with multiple different potential customers. The different industries that we talk to have different processes and different standards. They might look similar on the surface, but as you drill down and you start going deeper, there are slight variations in the processes that they have and different standards. the lesson here that I took was it was very tempting to go after multiple markets at the same time with just a small tweak. But these tweaks, they all add up, and eventually it will pull the product that you're building into multiple different directions. And it might not even be sustainable for a startup because of the limited resources. And quickly the product will just become something that somewhat works in a lot of different areas, but not really great at solving anything. So the key point here is to focus on validating ideas and solving problems quickly rather than building a product that somewhat works. Again, going back to that build, measure, and learn loop from Lean Startup. The second point of failure from this experience was to incorporate buzzwords and nascent technologies for the sake of it. Newer technologies may not yet be refined or may not even be the most efficient way to solve the problem at hand. So instead, try to focus on finding a solution to the problem, not focusing on using a specific tool to solve a problem. Just because you have a new shiny hammer does not mean that it is still the right tool when you need to drive screws. The third lesson I wanted to dive into is timing to market. For this lesson, I want to set the context back in 2016 and want to draw from my experience when I worked together with another friend of mine. The two of us with engineering background, we set out to build a hyperlocal e-commerce site. So the idea was to build a e-commerce platform for last mile delivery. The concept is similar to an online convenience store that sells perishable goods with a same day, 2-hour delivery. And we kind of compared it as if it was a 7-Eleven on the cloud. And we called the project Twimby, which stands for the world in my backyard. So the idea was we try to bring everything that you need to you with the 2-hour delivery. We built the MVP, just enough of a product to serve the Vancouver West End area. And we also focused on lean execution. This was not our first foray into entrepreneurship. So we tried to apply all the learnings that we've already had from previous experiences. And we focused on lean execution with just the two of us. So both of us handled product development, and we split among us the rest of the tasks. We did business development, partner negotiations, customer relations, doing marketing and sales. We did guerrilla marketing, and we also tried to partner with a local delivery company. And everything sounded pretty good. So what went wrong this time? I'd like to attribute one of the failures, the first failure, to lack of interest or demand. Back in 2016, people in Vancouver were not conditioned to default to online purchase. The idea of immediate delivery of perishable goods was foreign back then. Of course, it's not really a novel concept anymore these days. But back then, people tend to want to visit a physical retail store, feel the goods in their hands, compare the options that they have, and then make the purchase right then and there. Like I said, if you think about it right now, this idea is very common. There's a huge market for online shopping with same-day delivery. For instance, there's Amazon Fresh, there's Instacart, there's Corner Shop by Uber, even retail grocery stores like Save On Foods, they start offering same-day delivery for their groceries. COVID-19 pandemic negatively impacted a lot of businesses, but it also opened up an opportunity or accelerated the opportunity for this market. So for these businesses that I just mentioned above, that who are able to adapt, they actually are able to seize this opportunity and thrive. What's the second point of failure here? The second point of failure with the high logistics cost as part of running this business, which is storage and delivery. Back then, there was no third-party delivery marketplace. There was no Uber, no Lyft. And so what we did was we tried to solve this by partnering with a local delivery company. Number one, it was expensive. And number two, it's not scalable as soon as we wanted to scale to other neighborhoods outside of downtown Vancouver. What was the lesson here? The lesson here is to ask yourself if there is elements required for you or your business, your product to be successful. Do these elements already exist in the market? And if not, are you trying to enter the market too early, maybe too late? If the elements are needed, for instance, if infrastructure is needed, do they exist yet? If not, are you ready to solve the problem as well? Usually problems with infrastructure requires high capital to solve, or maybe even rely on third-party solution. So you can focus on, again, solving your initial problem. For instance, partnering up with experts in the area, or maybe creating a marketplace and then kind of democratize that area. So to recap, the 3 lessons for today. Number 1, team composition. It's crucial, and we need to have the right people for the right job. It's true that as founders, we need to be able to wear multiple hats, but some of the hats just fit better than the others. So it is up to you to decide if you have the experience and expertise to play a particular role. If you don't, perhaps if you have the patience and determination to learn on the job. If you don't have either, perhaps you should think about bringing in a partner who's experienced in the area and let them carry it forward, or maybe hire a person to handle that area. Number 2, focus. Focus on solving one problem at a time and solve it efficiently. So again, the focus is to solve your customer's problem and don't try to invent problems to be solved. Talk to the customers early, understand their pain points, and quickly discover the value add that you can bring to them. And remember, the less work we do to validate this, the better. Maybe again, because of the resource constraints, before we finally set out to build the actual solution for the problem. Point number 3, timing to market. Identify elements needed for the project company to succeed. If those elements don't exist, how do you overcome them or enable them? Third-party collaboration, again, could be helpful, or maybe marketplace would be the solution. Either way, luck does play a factor in getting the right timing to market. So when interviewed, a lot of successful entrepreneurs mentioned that luck plays a part in the success of whatever they build. And one most recent example I could think of is Clubhouse, which was launched back in March 2020 at the onset of the pandemic. Just as the pandemic was starting to shut off parts of the world, people were looking for more virtual outlets to channel their creativity, and Clubhouse provided that timely. So like I mentioned before, while these experiences didn't really work out for me, I still learned those valuable lessons, and I still continue to apply them in my career. Based on the lessons that I've learned from my experience, I'd like to tie them back to why I decided to join Grammarly and why I think Grammarly is in a unique position to succeed. Going back to the first point of team composition, Grammarly obviously clearly defined the needed roles for the next steps to grow the business, and then hire the right people for the job. So skills or experience-based evaluation in an interview is a given. However, Grammarly also focuses on values-based evaluation based on the EAGER values. So EAGER is Grammarly's core values that stands for ethical, adaptable, gritty, empathetic, and remarkable. These values are important to ensure high level of collaboration and an environment where people feel safe and are able to work their best. Collaboration is really important to be enabled to achieve greater results, and we'll be able to achieve what Aristotle says, that allows the whole to be greater than the sum of its parts. For the second lesson, focus. Again, focus on solving one problem efficiently and be really good at it. Grammarly's mission is to improve lives by improving communication. While that sounds really broad, well, missions can be broad, but execution of the mission must remain focused. For Grammarly, it would have been very easy to lose focus quickly. As Grammarly grew and grew, when we get more and more users, a lot of people actually requested Grammarly to be available in other languages like Spanish or other languages. But there is actually 2 billion English-speaking people in the world. So there is that 2 billion total addressable market for English-speaking market alone. And staying hyper-focused in that market, and also specifically on digital writing only, have allowed Grammarly to continue to innovate in a focused way and eventually become the leader in this area. The third point is timing to market. Like I mentioned before, luck does play a part in getting the timing right. But as Roman philosopher Lucius Seneca said, luck is a matter of preparation meeting opportunity. So with the recent technology advancements, the advancements getting more advanced now, getting advanced pretty quickly now, we're shifting the way the world work and communicate, going towards more virtual, more digital, and more in writing. And because of Grammarly's unique position in the market, we are actually prepared to seize this opportunity. For instance, Grammarly has one of the most downloaded productivity extension in the Chrome store with a 4.5 star rating and over 10 million downloads. And Grammarly is pioneering a new market of digital writing assistant that goes beyond just spelling corrections and grammar. That being said, if you are interested, if you think these challenges are interesting to you, we are currently hiring for various positions as well. Please get in touch with us if you feel like you're interested in helping us to achieve our audacious goals for 2023. That being said, thank you very much for listening to my talk. I hope you'll be able to take home some of the lessons that I shared based on my experience and take them back to your business, back to your side projects or your professional career. So I originally had this slide as a Q&A, but now I call it Q&R. I learned a new terminology from my colleagues, say Q&R, because there is more than one right way to respond to a question. So that being said, I want to open it up for any questions.
Perfect. Thank you for that presentation. I'm going to remind everyone, if you have any questions for our speakers today, please be sure to post your question in the Q&A on the Whova platform. I have a question for you here. With Grammarly's head office being outside of Canada, how does your organization keep your corporate values with a fully remote office in Vancouver?
There's definitely been a challenge, but our WXP, the workplace experience team, had to actually pivot from doing a bunch of events and coordination in the office to do it remotely, virtually. And I think they've been doing a fantastic job in making sure to engage all the employees and have monthly events, monthly get-togethers between promoting connections between office sites and also within the office sites. So yeah, I think they've been really doing an amazing job. There's a lot of different events or different ways to get people to talk to each other and to communicate and to make sure that we are still connected to one another.
Wonderful. With that, if there was maybe one bit of parting words that you could leave with our group, do you have one kind of golden nugget to share with our audience today?
I think I like to, again, draw back to the first quote I shared during the presentation from Zig Ziglar. Just enjoy the experience that you are doing right now, whatever you are doing. You could be doing a side project, you could be successful entrepreneur at your own business, you could be just starting off your career, or you could be well advanced in your career. But any experience and all experience that we do, there's always a lesson to be learned in the experience that will lead you one step closer to your success.
Once again, I will ask you any last parting words before we wrap today's session a little bit early.
Oh, I just want to also thank Vancouver Startup Week for the great opportunity here. And it's been a fun event so far. So I hope everyone also has been enjoying themselves.
Wonderful. Well, with that, thank you, Kiky. Thank you, Grammarly, and thank you to our attendees who were joining today's session.